By the end of its cinema run, Jurassic Park was officially the most successful movie of all time, and the source novel it was based on had sold 9 million copies in between being published and the release of the movie. But the source novel, written by Michael Crichton, Jurassic Park, was actually very different in tone and style. It was a lot more interested in things like corporate espionage and the future of scientific fields being run through corporations and the dangers that poses, as well as philosophical debates about mankind's inability to control nature. Spielberg's movie was much more of a family affair, and it was more interested in the wonder and awe and childlike delight in the idea of dinosaurs and real-life dinosaurs. Although some of the philosophical debates that are raging throughout the whole book are voiced through the character of Ian Malcolm, played by Jeff Goldblum, gangster.
Yeah.
But it's more watered down. There's no actual explaining of chaos theory or any of these complex ideas. It's more just emotionally charged in the movie.
What you call discovery, I call the rape of the natural world.
So you'd be considering all these differences. Would be forgiven for thinking maybe Michael Crichton pulled a bit of a Stephen King and was pissed about how much they changed his precious novel and ruined it by making it into a movie and watering it down and dumbing it down for audiences. But he actually loved it. He was delighted with how the movie came out.
Well, I had seen test footage, I'd seen the animals being constructed, I'd seen some of the dailies and had been on the set some of the time. So I had very, very high expectations. And I didn't really think that the movie would exceed my expectations, but I was knocked out. I mean, it was far beyond anything I imagined.
And ironically, it was actually closer in spirit to his original vision for the novel. The original novel that he was writing in its first early drafts was from a child's perspective and was more interested in the awe and wonder of dinosaurs rather than the cynicism of the final novel. And he just couldn't get it right. He spent years working on the novel, did other projects, came back to it, and he could just never figure it out how he perceived it in his head on paper. And eventually an editor just said to him, why are you doing it from a kid's point of view? I want this from my point of view. Like, I'm amazed by this as well. I want to, give it to me from an adult perspective. So that's what he did, and that's what we got with the original novel. And I am a huge fan of the novel. I started reading it on holiday in Turkey last week, and I was like, belled up Phil, and I was like, we got to do Jurassic Park next week. So, this is a movie that absolutely captured me as a kid. It was when I was like 3 or 4 years old. I carried around a little VHS copy of it everywhere I went. You know, that annoying thing where a kid carries around a VHS and makes you watch it in whatever house he's in. I was obsessed with it. And the novel, when I came to read it later, it is very different and can't capture the majesty of the awe of these giant creatures in the way the movie can. But getting all this backstory and details and if you're a fan of Theme Park Tycoon, you'll love this as well, because it really fleshes out in detail how this theme park works and how it could work, and you believe it could work, just like you believe that sucking ancient blood out of the insects that are trapped in amber could be used to clone dinosaurs.
Yeah, I thought it was very good in terms of, as you just said there, like how would it actually work to resurrect dinosaurs. And is that from the novel itself, I guess?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so that must have been the most difficult thing Michael Crichton, before he sat down. How can I lay out this project to get a feasible way of essentially cloning dinosaurs? And I thought that was really... I'll have to read the book, actually.
I'll lend it to you after.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things. Another thing I thought was the fact of how, when all the dinosaurs were born female, how do you get it so that a believable way of that they actually start breeding on the island? Because another difference between the book and the film, although beat for beat it does feel pretty similar, most of the characters are there. Yeah. It's not that different, but it's more complexity and tone and stuff. But another difference is the fact that the dinosaurs are breeding on the island is a much bigger deal. Like, for instance, in the movie there's 3 velociraptors. They have a nod to the book, the real number in the book, because he says, Muldoon, the park ranger, says there were 8 originally. In the book there's 8 velociraptors that are accounted for, but in actual total they realise there's over 37.
Oh, because they're breeding.
Exactly.
Right.
Another major arc in the book that you don't get in the movie, which I kind of wish was there, and I bring it up a lot in previous podcasts when we discussed the travesty that was the Jurassic World trilogy, because although that was a complete hunk of shit, I respected it for two reasons. Firstly, because it had a vision to be an actual step forward in the narrative with each movie, as opposed to the original trilogy, which is kind of more just retreading the same thing each time. And also the fact that going with the storyline of dinosaurs getting off the island was integral to the whole point of the original novel in Jurassic Park. And velociraptors and compies were getting off the island on stowed boats. So that's one thing I would love to have been seen explored in the original. But it's a 2 hour and 20 minutes and they cover a lot and they still have to miss a lot out, which is always the case with good adaptations.
Creation is an act of sheer will. Next time it'll be flawless.
Michael Crichton. I hope
Crichton.
I
think it's Crichton. I've only ever read it.
Crichton, whatever.
Mickey Crichton.
They first discussed this project when they was working together. I didn't even realise this. Steven Spielberg worked on ER, Emergency Room. Them two were working together in whatever capacity, and Spielberg turned around to Michael and said, "What's your next project?" And he explained, outlined Jurassic Park, and Spielberg was obviously, because think about it, it really is like the perfect Hollywood movie, and it did translate to that. Imagine if you're like a director, and Spielberg was quite deep into working on Schindler's List at this point, so he was like, I really want to do this, but I don't want to give up on my dream project of Schindler's List. So he went straight to Universal and was like, look, I've spoken to Michael, he's outlined this, buy the rights now. And they said, yeah, we'll do it, but we want you to release Jurassic Park. We're going to buy it, but we want Jurassic Park out first, and then Schindler's List. So Jurassic Park came out, and then Schindler's List both in 1993. But imagine if you're a director of Spielberg's ilk, and then someone comes to you with a project, you're like, a dinosaur theme park. He must have gone mad. I fucking want
see
this.
dollar signs.
Yeah.
Like, people just love dinosaurs. Like, that's the big thing in the movies, that people would pay anything to get on this island. You absolutely would. Like, the awe, and there's something about dinosaurs that just does it for people. Like, it absolutely captures your imagination. And speaking of, the things that the movie can't do that the book did, something the movie can do that the book could never capture. Yeah. It would describe in words how awe-inspired Alan Grant was the first moment he sees a sauropod coming over the hill. And you read that and you're like, okay, and then you're on to the next thing. The scene in the movie where, Laura Dern's character, Dr. Sattler, is studying the fern, saying, wow, this is from blah, 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 from the Triassic period, I can't believe it. And then Alan Grant just kind of like smacks it out of her hand, like, bitch, look at this.
He turns her head, literally.
And the combination of this, at the time, cutting edge and still beautiful looking CGI, mixed with John Williams' score and Sam Neill and Laura Dern's performances and Steven Spielberg's direction, it just comes together, and it is still bone-chilling. It just gives you that feeling where you're just like, holy fucking shit.
The Triceratops, because there's certain dinosaurs I know without being
Triceratops.
Do you know, it's the
one that's sick.
Yeah, the one that's sick. And there's actual footage of Spielberg showing the kids like the animatronic of it moving, and their literal mouths are open like that. And I was like, fucking hell! Like, it must have been incredible for these young kids, like these young actors. Like,
absolutely. Speaking of the animatronics, there's a lot of animatronics in the movie. It's beautiful. The Triceratops, like you were just saying, with the breathing in and out, and it just really feels lifelike and real. But the T-Rex is just, when you see the behind the scenes stuff of that giant mechanical T-Rex, that apparently didn't work at all. There was major problems with it. It was constantly breaking down, or the water on set was soaking into its silicon latex, whatever it was made of, and occasionally it would just work by itself and creep everyone out like it was haunted. But when you see it on screen, it is just awe-inspiring. And the CGI is absolutely fantastic in that opening T-Rex attack scene about halfway through the movie. But it's the way it's used and combined, and when it's not used and when it is used in a certain shot by Spielberg, that just makes that whole sequence come together.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. There's that moment where the little blonde girl gets out of the truck after it's been toppled over by the T-Rex, and she gets out and screams because it's approaching, and Grant grabs her around the mouth, and then all you see, it cuts to a shot of just a giant animatronic foot digging into the dirt. And then it cuts to the animatronic head approaching them and sniffing, and it blows the hat off, but then in a wide shot you get a second where it's CGI, or maybe just the tail CGI, and it's covered by the they're so smart at using all these ways of blending them together and using just the perfect, either the CGI or the animatronic in the perfect angle or perfect shot, cut into the next. It just works. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It all comes together to create the illusion in your mind. It's kind of like how they talk in, the Psycho scene the scene in Psycho where they go get stabbed in the shower. The way it's cut together, the choice of this close up on the knife, cut to this sort of shot of the face, to this blood going down the drain, it makes you believe you're seeing her get stabbed. Even though you never see any penetration.
That scene, for all it's all, it always makes me laugh a little bit, because Grant's just holding the little girl's mouth. He's like, if we don't move, it can't see us. It's like, he's calm as fuck. There's a T-Rex like that close from his face. Like, imagine if let's put this into real world terms. Imagine if it was just a blind tiger in front of you, and God, you knew that if you didn't move or make a sound, it couldn't. You'd be shitting.
I'd not only shit, I'd just feed my head to it.
Yeah,
get over and done with. I'll tell you something that makes that point really redundant is the fact that I'm not sure. I guess this was the leading science at the time with the theories, but now the understanding is that not only would the T-Rex not have had bad eyesight, or that kind of eyesight where it can only see when you're moving, like a basically evolved eyesight, it had, looking at the structure of its skull, you can see that the size of its eyes and the amount of space that was made for like the ocular sort of veins and stuff that leave all the nerve endings and stuff going to the brain. The size of it was so huge, and the size of the eye would have been so huge, and the way it's positioned and everything, it would have actually, almost definitely been by far and away the best eyesight in the animal kingdom of any land animal ever. Eyesight so good that you really couldn't perceive even what that sense would be like. It'd be like the way Superman can hear an earthquake in Japan and flies over there. It would have just been staggering. So couldn't be more wrong. They would have fucking eaten Alan Grant and little blonde chick.
See, I was reading
instantly
after I watched this, because I understand why people are very into dinosaurs. It's so interesting. But I've never been. Well, you got a birthday card.
Yeah.
Have a awesome birthday.
That was actually my nephew picked that.
Oh, right. I just look at it.
I got to show the
show the audience. I know you fucking love dinosaurs. Jurassic World.
Have a awesome birthday.
Yeah.
A birthday.
I was reading. I was watching it, and then straight away my mind went to most dangerous dinosaurs ever.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? So I was reading this whole article, and there was a dinosaur apparently called. They named it Gigantosaurus, and it was about fucking 30 feet tall.
Yeah.
And it could run at fucking 35 miles an hour, and it'd be like, what the fuck? Do we have any chance? And I was just reading another article similarly. Some little boy in South Carolina was on the beach, just walking along. I was just reading this today.
Got bit by a compy?
No. He just touched something in the sand. He got it out, and it's a preserved what's the shark?
Oh,
Megalodon.
Megalodon
tooth, a preserved one. So he's going to be loaded from that. The tooth is like that. Like, literally, and it's like imagine if you could this is why Jurassic Park, the premise of it is so good. How much money would you literally pay to see this?
And we can charge anything we want, $2,000 a day, $10,000 a day, and people will pay it.
Like, it's just a zoo of these things. Well, now and they're not going to break free, by the way.
Genuinely, I would save up a lifetime to be able to do. Like, you know, when you have these guys who are like, I won the lottery and I'm spending it all on going to space for a week. I don't get that. I get it, but I don't get it.
That would be interesting.
It would be amazing, but my motivation isn't there.
Yeah.
Like, if you told me, and that would come at like serious risk. If you told me, all right, if I win the lottery, I can spend basically all of it on going to Jurassic Park for one weekend, and 1 in 5 chance will the dinosaurs break out, I would be like, fuck it, I'm doing it. I would do anything to do it. Right?
But also, you've got to remember though,
for an awesome birthday.
You got to remember though, Declan, this is basically a zoo. I've been to zoos bare times where like you go to the animal enclosure, nothing's like they're just in their little like shelters and they don't bother to come out, and you're like, I'm just fucking wasting.
Well, that's what the fucking goat's for.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Get that bitch up there.
This is another question. If you could, slightly off subject, if you had all the money in the world and they said to you, you could go back. Sorry to go off subject.
No.
You could go back to any event in history to experience it and just be a bystander. What would you choose?
Any event.
Ever.
The dinosaurs.
Again.
Yeah, it's gonna be dinosaurs.
Really. Wow.
I just want to see them, man. I want to see fucking dinosaurs.
That is cool, man.
Maybe the asteroid landing.
I'm gonna go for sports, man.
Alright, fair enough.
Yeah, actually, there's so much better.
No, fair enough. I just didn't
I'm
even know.
I'm gonna go. I would love to see like the rumble in the jungle, man.
Yeah, it would
With,
be
like,
pretty cool.
Ali and like, shit.
And then have a photo of yourself in the back.
Yeah,
and then we can find it like Jack Nicholson at the end of The Shining.
But it's really interesting, like the premise. Like, if money was no object, the shit that you would do.
Oh,
this is
absolutely.
definitely the premise of Jurassic Park. You would do it. It's just,
For sure, man.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Like, I do love, especially as a kid, like seeing the Santa Claus version of him in the movie compared with the book.
Yeah.
Where he just wants, he's a dinosaur now, and he just, like, he's me as a 3-year-old if I was a billionaire. Like, I would have tried to do this. And seeing him realising that it's just not going to work and accepting it, and, you know, that moment at the end where you see he stops and listens to the dinosaurs wailing before they get off and fly away from the island.
And my other favourite moment is when the Velociraptors, who play like one of the biggest parts of the film, apart from maybe the T-Rex, is when the Velociraptor is like stalking them right at the end, and the T-Rex just runs out and like rips it up, and they escape.
Which is arguably the only really dumb part of the movie.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Because it's like, how did no one notice that? But the film has built up so much credibility up to that point. You just go with it. You're like, fuck it. And it ends up with that amazing moment where the T-Rex is fighting the 2 Velociraptors, and he grabs one of them and throws them into the old fossil T-Rex and knocks it down. Does that incredible iconic roar, and the banner of Welcome to Jurassic Park falls in front of him, and you're just like, oh my god! Like, I wish. Next time we see it in the cinema, can we go see it, man?
Yeah, I also like
so fucking good.
The game warden, when he's like,
clever girl.
Yeah, he's got the gun, and he's like, he's like, I'm better than these, like, and then like you just see the eye coming through the bush, and he just turns, and he knows that he's fucked, and he just goes, clever girl, and it just rips him to shreds.
See, the whole Velociraptor stalking sequence. Because it's interesting, there is major segments of the movie. Once shit goes down, there's the T-Rex segment where he basically owns the 40 minutes of the movie, and then he passes the baton to the Velociraptors who run the movie for the last half an hour or so. But the Velociraptors are probably more memorable for that segment because you go in expecting the T-Rex. You know, that is that's the Hitler of dinosaurs. Like that's the go-to one people pick. But the Velociraptors, it was interesting having the idea of an intelligent dinosaur that will problem-solving dinosaur that will stalk you and figure out these things, and they know what they're doing, and they explore it so much more in the book. It's so interesting, like the different ways their intelligence is portrayed, and you know, Muldoon talking about them probing the fences, trying to find. They never attack one part of the fence a second time because they're looking for weaknesses in the fences, and there's something just so disturbing. And that's another thing that brings you into that idea of an ecosystem, a global ecosystem that is made up entirely of lizard animals filling every marketplace, if that makes sense. Like intelligent dinosaurs, intelligent reptiles is just a scary concept, and they managed to capture that so well with the CGI and the animatronics. Like there's something about the little wrinkles in the face and expressions on the Velociraptor's face which conveys a level of intelligence compared with, say, the Brachiosauruses that just look like kind of dopey cows.
Now, can I ask, obviously no one knows about dinosaurs, but there's been research into, were they actually intelligent, or was this poetic license?
There's probably a certain amount of poetic license. I mean, there's loads of poetic license with the Velociraptors. Velociraptors were only about a bit larger than a chicken. Yeah. And covered in feathers. Yeah. Although I don't think they knew about feathers at the time. But there's, the Utah Raptor is as big as, I think, 20 feet long. Like 3 times the size of the Velociraptors depicted in the movie. So it's not like there wasn't raptors that were huge, or like large raptors that they could depict. But as far as I know, they were perceived to be highly intelligent and had very large brains.
Fuck that. But it kind of ruined it for me in the later films with the whole, Chris Pratt, Velociraptor, whistling for them.
This is a happy day and a happy show about a great movie.
Fair enough.
We'll talk about those travesties at some point.
Right, fair enough.
But fuck that.
But, I can't... Did you... Yeah, we wouldn't have been old enough to see this in the cinema, would we?
I actually did see it in the cinema.
Oh, you did?
And it's actually one of my earliest memories. And do you ever have this where you remember an event or a movie, and I feel like it's easier to know with a movie because you can actually have it replayed back to you, but you have a memory, but it's completely false. Not in that it didn't happen, but just that dinosaur didn't look at all the same. You can see how your memories combined it all together wrong. Yeah. So I did see it in the cinema, but I had no real... I just remember being scared and freaked out. The main thing I remember is the scene where the fat guy gets... Nedry gets eaten by the Dilophosaurus, I think it's called. Which, by the way, talking about iconic dinosaurs, that's an underrated one.
Poison.
The one that spits the poison. That's an underrated one in the Jurassic Park franchise. That he has maybe some of the most memorable scenes in the whole movie. Or, I mean, it's one scene. That's another dinosaur I wish was used a bit more. Because it's used quite a bit more in the book.
Yeah. I mean, see, the guy that gets eaten by him, the poison one, he's another one that I see on the screen. I'm like, I know this guy, but I can't remember what else.
He's probably most, other than Jurassic Park.
Runnings? No.
You're thinking of John Candy. He was in Seinfeld.
Oh, right. I was like, I know this fat guy with glasses. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, he was in lots of stuff. Yeah. He was the go-to sort of fat guy with glasses in all movies and TV shows during this time period. I love him. I always find him really watchable.
But talking about casting, now we've always talked about doing an episode on actors that could have been cast into roles. And they was going to cast... or trying to cast Harrison Ford as Sam Neill, which potentially...
It would have worked.
And Sean Connery as Richard Attenborough, the entrepreneur character.
Wow. Anyone else?
That's all I know thus far. That I don't think that would have worked, personally.
No, it would have worked. what it would have been was a very different film.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I feel like a movie with the cast, it's nearly like making a recipe, and we got a curry, and that would have been a Chinese.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, that's two integral characters who are big personalities and entirely different personalities than Sam Neill and
Richard Attenborough. Dickie Attenborough.
Old Dickers.
Yeah.
It would have been very different. It's kind of like when they talk about, Sean Connery was originally going to be cast as Morpheus and Will Smith as Neo in The Matrix.
Yeah, so
which
weird, man.
is so different, it's nearly hard to imagine, and it's because you're trying to stick them into the movie you got. But that's not the movie exactly as you would have got it, because it would have been tweaked to suit them, and they would have naturally changed the whole movie around because of their personalities. So it probably would have been amazing, but I'm so glad we got the one we got. Because I love Sam Neill. I always love Sam Neill, and there's something about the fact that other than Jeff Goldblum and Richard Attenborough, but Jeff Goldblum's more of an obscure star, and Dickie Attenborough hadn't been a star really in decades. Yeah. Other than those two, though, arguably, no one's a star in this movie, and it suits it perfectly. And you'd get distracted by Harrison Ford being Harrison Ford and Sean Connery being Sean Connery in this movie. Like, you don't want that. Sam Neill is perfect. Laura Dern's perfect. Jeff Goldblum's perfect.
But then again, you got fucking, which I found weird. Like, every time I watch this, and then you've got Samuel Jackson.
Yeah.
I'm like, every time he comes onto the screen for the first time, I double take him. Like, is that Samuel Jackson? And he's in it for like
he's
10
perfect.
minutes.
He's perfect casting as well, because
minutes,
that character in the book is very dry. And now reading the book, it reads in my head in Samuel Jackson's voice.
Yeah.
And he's just he doesn't have many lines, but he's memorable again.
Yeah.
Hold on to your butts.
Yeah.
Is the perfect line for them doing their first ever tour of Jurassic Park. Like, it's just everything about this movie is perfect.
Your head, like right about here, that's how big the head would be.
Down there, and then from there he hurls it,
and then he would take a step back. He'd be wiping like right over camera.
Well, I don't think any other director could have done it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I mean, like you said, he was always part of the project before the book was even written, let alone published, let alone whatever. So, there was never anyone else in the running to direct this movie. But it's true, Spielberg at that time in his absolute prime.
Yeah.
I mean, the man made Schindler's List and Jurassic Park back to back. He was literally, everything he touched was going to turn into gold. Absolute master at his pomp. And everything was perfect though. John Williams, who else would you want to score that?
Yeah.
His unbelievable scores. When you're supposed to feel awe and wonder, you feel it. When you're supposed to feel menace and, not even in the dinosaur moments, but, some of the most ominous themes and music is played just when we're looking at the amber at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And it's perfect for capturing that sort of feeling of mankind is fucking with God's play in ways it shouldn't, and it's gonna fuck us.
Yeah, it's
it's scarier than the dinosaurs when they're actually on show.
That's one of my favourite lines, actually. Jeff Goldblum in the Jeep.
Must go faster.
Oh, not that one. Not that one where he goes, God, I can't do his words, but God wipes out dinosaurs, man brings him back. And then Laura Dern just goes, dinosaur eats man, women rules the world.
Yeah.
That sums it up perfectly, because the human race is always, and it still stands true to this day, always has to meddle with things which is too powerful for it, and that is a big problem. Like,
I'm on John Hammond's side, man. I want meddling. I want all this cool shit. I can't wait for all the crazy future science bollocks.
Well, we've cloned a sheep thus far.
What was her name again?
Dolly.
Dolly the sheep.
So let's see if we can do this, but
that's obvious. We're over dependent on automation. I can see that now. Now the next time everything's correct, when we have control again.
You've never had control. That's the illusion.
So when everything goes to shit and they finally get off the island, My biggest problem with it all was the fact that it only really went wrong because they had a bad actor conspiring against them. In Fatboy Nedry, the slob. He gets his killed, he gets his comeuppance. The Embros never leave the island and get into the hands of Bias and the evil other corporation trying to steal it. So, and in the novel, the Costa Rican government bombs the island and kills all the dinosaurs. That doesn't happen in the movie. We just get a nice helicopter ride away with a bunch of condors flapping their wings and all that. Lovely sunset, it's all happy and nice. So the dinosaurs are still there. I want another Jurassic Park. Like, I want the Jurassic World. I want what was planned in the book, where they'd already bought an island in Asia and an island in off Europe to start building Jurassic Park Europe and Jurassic Park Japan.
Right.
I want that. I would be totally on the side of, hey, you know, it fucked up, but it was human error and this happened. Let's go back and do it. Why couldn't? It is just a big zoo. Why can't they do it?
I don't think they'd allow it though. They even said at the start when they're trying to unload the dinosaurs and it rips that guy apart, that you've got a lawsuit for 20 million. I don't think if they can't, well, they wouldn't even find the dead bodies because they'd be ripped apart, wouldn't
Well, that's
they?
also in the book why they chose a random Costa Rican island, because it's away from American Western jurisdiction.
And what was the significance of focusing on the condors? Is it because Sam Neill earlier was like, birds are the most closely related to dinosaurs? I didn't really get that point. The whole
just that, like, I wouldn't look into it too much more than that.
But yeah, like, so they bomb. See, I'm now interested in the actual book compared to the film.
It's fantastic.
So I should have read the book before I'd done this actually. So how does the book end? So they bomb it and it's just like done.
Yeah, ends near enough the same. And they radio in the boat that had left the island that had raptors on it to stop. And then you hear rumours that raptors are starting to be spotted in the Costa Rican rainforest.
Really? Mm. Oh, okay. So they do escape. And
yeah.
Then, okay, right. And then what happens after that? Do they go throughout the whole world?
It leaves it. Well, we'll get into Lost. I've read the book of Lost World as well, so another show we'll do the Lost World sequel, and we'll talk about what happens there. Okay. But for now, Phil, do you recommend Jurassic Park?
Yeah, I totally recommend this. It's a film which I've seen numerous times, which I'm sure everyone has, but it's a film that I space out again over many years. Obviously I watched it for this podcast. The reason I space it out is it still has that kind of, if I watch it every 3 years for example, it still has that same nostalgic awe-inspiring effect to me, like with the T-Rex and everything like that. And I just honestly think, you know, nothing's perfect in life or film, but I think this is a film that is as close to, in my opinion, to perfection that can be done. So yeah, I recommend it 10 out of 10.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to insult your intelligence by recommending the movie. It is arguably the greatest movie of all time. Mm-hmm. It is the perfect family film, the perfect combination of the right cast, the right source material, a perfect adaptation, the perfect musical score, the perfect director at the helm. Everything about this movie combines for perfection. It is incredible how many times I've watched this movie and I always get something else out of it. It never gets old. I still get those same chills down my spine in those same moments, and it is just, you know, I don't consider it my favourite movie of all time, but I've never watched another movie more, so can I really say it's not? 3-year-old me would definitely say it is, and the fact that I don't think there's anything I liked from that age that I still like now, except for this film and dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So that is a easy recommendation for Jurassic Park.
This is the Filmy McFilm Film Show.